Today's Thursday, June 18th, 2020. I'm here in Duck, North Carolina, out here on the sound side of the world, here in the thin strip of the Outer Banks. It's a beautiful day, as you can see. This is a place where I lived for 13 years of my life, and it feels really good to be back. Had a good day at the beach yesterday. Staying with my friend Mary Schmader. Really good to be catching up with her again. Just want to drop in with what's heavy on my heart and what's feeling most real for me. Truth speaking. It's something that all of my close friends know is real important to me. And having grown up in a religion of Jehovahs Witnesses in a religion where I did a lot of preaching, of teaching other people about my faith, probably to many people's dismay. As I look back, it can be embarrassing to think about the fact that I went around trying to teach people this religion. And I know that when I was in it, I believed it. And at that moment, it was my truth. And I taught it that way. And now I just wish to make a slight, awareness to a differentiation between what I did when I was in that religion and what I'm doing now. Maybe just for myself, I need to say this, but what I've realized is the main difference is that I'm speaking my own truth now. Not something that's just been handed to me. Not that a religion has handed to me and then I'm trying to teach others. But this is what my own truth is at the moment. And I'm open to learning and changing, and maybe me more than anybody, I know that my beliefs change. And I'm open to seeing them change. And in the moment, all I can do is speak what my truth is right now. And where I'm at, where I'm standing at, where I'm starting at, and where I'm open to see, I'm open to learn new information, new revelations, new understandings. But in the moment, I have to anchor myself into what I feel in my heart to be true right now. And this touches on where I'm at. With my closest friends, I run out of things to talk about really quickly if I'm not sharing my truth. And my present moment truth is tough for a lot of people to hear or digest. And it seems there's a very small percentage of the population that I can speak freely with. And that I can speak my truth where it doesn't disturb them so much. And that's what's coming up, as I meet up with old friends and I share where I'm at and what my truth is. I don't have a lot of energy to waste around beating around the bush and or pretending that I agree with them when I don't. And so I guess I wanted to, maybe for the first time, speak to some of these issues on one of these videos. And in a way, I've been not diving right in as a way to know where to begin this conversation. Because I want to be really careful not to pass on something that I just heard that I have no direct connection with. And this is what slowed me down into speaking out what I believe to be true, but I don't know what I have to back that up with at the moment, or I don't know what I can say other than that I've heard it. And so, I guess I wish to start with speaking to a couple of years ago. I posted on Facebook an article that I wrote called Protection of Innocence. Mankind's next step in their spiritual evolution. And I wrote quite a few things that were close to my heart in that paper, and that was in that article that I wrote and posted on Facebook. But what was mentioned in there was a book I read that a friend of mine handed to me many years ago when I was maybe 15 years ago or more, 15 plus years ago. I read a book called Lies My Teacher Told Me. And there's some very disturbing things in there. And you can see why not too many people have heard about this. It talks about the early colonizers of America coming here on their ships and writing letters back to Europe, where they're from, and speaking, bragging about the atrocious things they were doing to the native peoples of the lands. What stands out as the worst is their bragging about the rape of the women and the children there, in particular the children, and how they can rape as many as they want and abuse as many of they want and kill off as many as they want, and bragging about that in letters back to Europe. Such a disturbing thing to see, as we learn more and more about the genocide that the West, the American West, is built on. And we learn about the details like this that are the crushing of the spirit, the obliterating of the psyche of the children and the women and the men of this land through the acts of conquistador pedophiles, colonizers. That was probably the first time in my life that I had heard anything outright about that, and it hits home close to me. I'll go one layer deeper in this confession. My father's father, when my father was a preteen, he testified in court against his father for sexually abusing, for molesting his siblings. And it put my grandfather in jail. And so this whole topic of pedophile abuse and ancestral pedophilia or not hits close to home for me. It's something that I know in my own bloodline, in my own family. I've heard stories from my father and from his brothers that when they were younger, they told people what was going on in their home. They told teachers, they told neighbors, they told police officers. They told all the adults they could find. And no one did anything about it for many, many years. And I believe that this is a common heartbreak among victims of pedophilia, victims of molestation and rape. When they speak about it, it's often too disturbing for people to hear, and Rather than listen and believe, they would like to think that the child's making it up, that it couldn't be, or that that's too disturbing to get involved with. That's someone's inside their house personal family issue. And yet the children are crying for help. I speak these things to begin to layer how my understanding has arrived where it does at this point in my life. I'll take a moment to fast forward a bit and pause and just say that, like, as I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, we were taught to stay out of politics, stay out of wars, not to ever go to a war for any government. And that's something I applaud the witnesses for. I appreciate that they raised me that way, and that I grew up seeing that all war is propaganda, all war is fake. To be told to go out and fight a war is a choice. You know, people are convinced to do so, encouraged to do so by the media, by your family, by your peers, but it's always a personal choice. Witnesses made it clear to be very careful about that, and as a group they encourage you to never go to war, to go to jail before you go to war, to be a conscientious objector. And this may sound like a different topic than what I'm talking about here, but through that lens I begin to see the government for the facade that it was, for the propaganda machine that it was, for the corrupt, lying leaders that are there. I did not trust them. I saw how quickly they sacrificed thousands and millions of lives for what often, as far as I understand, always turns out to be lies. And then people have given their lives and taken lives for someone they never met, for some they out there that they believed in. I grew up with this lens of kind of seeing through that lie and that propaganda, for seeing the lack of moral fiber, spiritual character, or any evidence of any type of awakening going on for these people, for the leaders of our nations. Then when I read books like I did, Lies My Teacher Told Me, it shows that, you know, hundreds of years ago, the very foundations of the United States of America and other countries are based on these these foundations, these startups of massacres, of rape, of pedophilia. These are the early colonizers. The beginning of the genocides. And who is it that's in power? The ones who are financing, promoting, backing these same leaders. So in the modern day, when I hear people like Anak Lucas come forward and talk about how they were trafficked as a child, passed around in private jets from country to country, to the wealthiest people, to the most influential people, to politicians, to judges, to lawyers, to congressmen, to Hollywood actors, to athletes. And you begin to hear this, not once, not twice, not three times, but coming from many people, many different directions. People who stand up and speak out. People like Isaac Cappy, people like Corey Feldman, people like Mel Gibson, people like Keanu Reeves. You see people speak out, and you see the ones who speak out get shamed, get silenced, get killed, get suicided. Can we be honest with ourselves why we are not willing to look at this? Is it because it's making us uncomfortable? Is it because it's a risky thing to speak up and speak out about because you can get attacked, you can get discredited, you can get mocked, you can get whatever. It's a risky thing to stick your neck out and speak about. It's an uncomfortable thing to speak out about. And how do we know if it's true or not? All I know is that from a personal experience in my life, I know that it is true. In my family, it happens. In the history books, it happens. In the present moment, people are speaking out about it. Harvey Weinstein was arrested. For what? Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. For what? Nexum was taken down. For what? There's evidence all around us, and it's growing. And we're at a point now that if we're not seeing it, we're almost choosing to not see it. If all of these accusations are wrong, wow, well, that would feel wonderful. What a beautiful world to live in, that none of that's actually happening. But I don't see evidence of that. I see evidence to the contrary, that we live in a very corrupt world, a very hidden world. A world lacking transparency, lacking safety. We're in a world where we see constant exploitation of native peoples, of land, of water, of resources, of businesses, of rich exploiting the poor. If the world's wealth is in 1%, then the state of the earth reflects that 1% who is hoarding that wealth. And all the problems on the planet can be attributed to those who are hoarding the wealth. I believe we're in a time of awakening when it's our consciousness as individuals and as a collective is raising. And all truth is coming to the surface. All things hidden in the shadows that we don't want to see and look at is raising up to be seen, to be brought into the light of consciousness. And if this is not the kind of world we wish to live in, then we need to shine the light on it and clear it up, clean it up from our society. We need to investigate it to find out if these truths are real. The ITNJ, the International Tribune for Natural Justice by Sasha Stone and David Steele, I believe is his name. These men are doing great work in seeking out and making known and making heard the voices of victims of sexual abuse, of human trafficking, of child sex trafficking. And the reason that it's not being mentioned on the media is because the people who are doing it own the media. The reason it's not being tried in our courts is because it's infiltrated our police, our judges, our lawyers, our governments. Maybe not all of them, but maybe just enough of all of them to keep it hidden. It runs the mafia who keeps people's mouths shut. Secret societies, I challenge you. What good are you doing for our world? If you're meeting together with other men for centuries and thousands of years, what protection have you brought the planet? Men on this planet, I urge you as brothers to stand up in your truth and to speak out in your truth, to gather with other truth-speaking men. The masculine on the planet has always had the role of protector. And I call you forth not to start a war against people who are predators of our society and of our human race, but to stand up to them, to band together with other truth-speaking men, to call it out so that we can begin to create a safe and peaceful place on this planet for our children, for the women, for each other. So that if anyone speaks of the possibility of these things happening, why would someone make that up? If anyone is to speak to this, that we have a place where we can seek it out and know for a fact whether it is happening or not. And I think if you begin to look around, you see that it is happening on a grand scale, on a sickening scale. And I call out to the men of the planet to stand up as protectors, protectors of innocence, to protect the innocence of children, to protect the innocence of women, so that they feel safe around us and in our company, and safe knowing that they see one of us present in the community. And I ask you as men to also be protectors of the innocence of our own selves, the innocence of each other as men. Innocence not in the way of not experiencing life, but even after experiencing everything of life, maintaining and protecting our own innocence, our own beauty, and the innocence of others. And never violating that or coercing that. Or pushing the innocence faster than it's ready to go. That's what's on my heart today. As you can see, these things are something I can speak for days about. And I will continue to speak to it more as it comes up into my heart, and as I feel I can speak freely in the moment about it. But I want to thank you for taking the time to hear me, and I felt the need to speak it in my own language and from my own seat of my own soul, and from my own perspective of being a human being on the planet right now, and what I'm seeing and what I'm encountering and how it's making me feel. And this too is why I cannot stomach the propaganda of coronavirus right now. It is very low on the list of emergencies, of things that need to be addressed by us as humans. It's another way of gaslighting. If I could illustrate, if we were human beings all gathered around a swimming pool one day and a baby is drowning in the pool, and I look over and I see that baby drowning, and I get up and I say, "Hey everyone, can I have your attention? I have a really good deal I'd like to sell you of $19.99 a month. It's gonna really help you out. It's some good superfoods." I say this because if I grab everyone's attention and ask you to look at me and focus on me, and I give you any information that is not the most pressing information of a child drowning in a pool right now, why then I'm complicit in the death of that child. So all actors, rock stars, movie stars, athletes, politicians, anyone who has space, airtime, popularity, influence, presence in your communities, in your friends groups, and you're not speaking about the real issues, human trafficking, child sex trafficking. If you're wanting everyone to wear a mask and stay apart for some fake pandemic, you're not addressing what's really going on. That the leaders, the presidents of the United States are implicated in child sex trafficking. The Clintons, Obama, the Bushes, the same ones who brought us 9/11 and the assassination of JFK. Why anyone would continue to trust and believe in these people is beyond me. And that's my truth to share with you today. That if we see something happening, what's the slogans in the airports? See something, say something. But realize, do not say it to some authority out there that you think will take care of it. Because it may be that very authority who is making sure that it continues and perpetuates for year after year, for century after century, for millennia after millennia. These things are happening because the powers in place are making sure that they can continue. It may sound too horrific to be true. Please seek it out for yourself to know if what I'm saying has any validity to it. May we find the bravery to speak our truths in this life so that others who are walking, who see us, can reach in and find their own truth and stand in it. That is my truth. And as one divine being to another, I say we can do this. And we will not rest until we do. Bless you all. Have a beautiful day.